Hello everybody and welcome back to another riveting episode here along the Pennsylvania and Berwind Railroad. This is episode number 12. Welcome back. I want to thank you all for all of the feedback from the last episode, episode number 11, where we worked on the adjacent side of the main line track here. A lot of you guys had a lot of good stuff to say about it, and I'm glad you enjoyed that video. And I want to thank you for the information regarding what this build is here, and it is cattle pens. And you pretty much all confirmed my suspicions that in this day and age, cattle isn't really frequently carried by rail anymore. I kind of thought that was the case, so I wasn't really too sure what to do with this build, because I knew this was going to be the next episode. In fact, I started recording some of this right after episode 11 dropped, so I had already kind of started progress on this. But I had a feeling that this was going to be the case, so in order to compensate for that, I decided that what I'm going to do is build the cattle pens as it is, and then once the route is released, we can all cumulatively decide if you want to operate on it or not. It won't be that hard to disconnect the track and make it look like an abandoned spur if that's what people want. And it wouldn't be that hard to just fake it and pretend that, you could still operate cattle trains. The only thing that, concerned me about removing the cattle service is because the cattle trains go from here to Juniata Yard and then get forwarded out to Grafton Yard, which is all the way on the other side of the route, before getting put into a local and then brought back down the line to Highland and brought to a beef factory, turned into delicious cheeseburgers, and then exported elsewhere. So I didn't really want to lose that operation, because it does make for some pretty interesting consists. Bill had written in the rules of the operating department certain procedures for how the cattle cars were meant to be handled. They had to be at the front of the train, they had to be taken off and put onto certain sidings in between car routing and that sort of thing. So I didn't really want to lose that operation, so I wanted to leave the option open to be able to still use that. And if you're not into it, you don't have to do it if you don't think it's realistic. But being that this is a fictional route, we can do really whatever we want. So I figured it'd be nice to keep it, and later on, if we want to adapt it into something else, we could always do that too and totally change the game. But anyway, I had a lot of fun doing this build. It was kind of nice to take a break from really heavy industrial scenes like what we were working on up at Mill Creek, and if we go back way further, back to the oil refinery, which was like my second or third episode, those were really big, really ambitious builds. And although they were a lot of fun, they are just so much work to do for each one of those. And that's not to say that I won't be doing more of those in the future, but it was just nice to be able to do something that's kind of simple. And what I really like about these farm builds, this one and then the one in the previous build, or the previous video, episode 11, is just how simple it can be and just what you can accomplish with a few power lines, a nice barbed wire fence, some decent ground texturing. I'm not even talking about using vegetation, just doing some decent ground texturing, and then a little bit of scenery work. And it just kind of goes to show that you can be minimal, you don't have to go super busy, and you can still achieve a really, really nice look. I kept my asset use as minimal as I could and just reused a lot of the same stuff over and over again. Just the power lines, the same barbed wire fences, the same dirt roads. Keep the look consistent, and it just helps keep everything tied together. And just, having that minimalist look, it just really, it was nice to build, and it's nice to look at. We'll take a more in-depth look at it in the second half of this video during the live mode, but we're not there yet. So just a couple things to note about this build. I really don't have a whole lot to talk about during this episode. Like I said, the episode 11 just dropped, so pretty much everything I had to say about this build has been said in the last episode. This is almost like the sequel. Episode 11, the sequel. So really all I have to say is just that. I really like these farmhouses and the look of it. There's still some work that I have to do to tie everything in together, but just making use of a few of the new assets, the new trees. You'll see in a few moments I start using the Queen Anne's lace, which is a wildflower, and that just came to mind to me just the other day, because I'm driving to and from work, and this Queen Anne's lace flower is just everywhere on the side of the road. It is just all over the place. So I'm like, you know what? I gotta include that because it is just a real life thing that I'm seeing everywhere. So I found some decent assets for that, and I start to work them in here, and hopefully it'll tie in together with the rest of the route. If I have to, add it to previous builds and stuff like that, that's fine. But it's going to be funny to see what this map is like when I'm totally done, because I feel like as I'm building, I'm getting better at doing scenery work. So like the older builds have a different style than the newer stuff, so I might have to go back and touch things up, as I improve my skills. But, it's not a big deal. That's how we learn. That's how we get better at doing things, is you do them over and over again. You practice and find out what works, find out what assets you like, what kind of palette that you like. Luckily enough, when I started my video series here, I pretty much had the palette that I was using figured out, and so I don't have to spend so much time searching for assets. But it is nice to cut in some new assets, especially as new things become available. These power lines, for instance, that we're looking at here, they're from Jointed Rail, and they're brand new, and they look so good. And stuff like that, just as new items drop, I want to begin to incorporate them. But I can't remember where all the old stuff is, and I don't always want to do a bulk replace all sort of thing, because I don't know how it's going to affect an area. So I try to only do that if I'm in the area. So I'll just do it for the selected tile that I'm working on, just in case, the power lines start to float or whatever it is, just has some kind of a weird behavior, because, Trainz can be kind of unpredictable sometimes with certain things. You think it's going to do one thing, and then it totally does something else. So I try to only use that bulk replace tool when I'm in that specific area. One thing about this scene here too, it feels very Kansas to me. Like, I've never been out to the West or Midwest or whatever, so I don't really know, but just like from photos and stuff like that, it just has this flat, Wizard of Oz kind of feel, like Dorothy could be living right in that house there, and the tornado's gonna blow through here and sweep her into Neverland. Neverland, right? No, Oz. Neverland, that's a different movie. Oh man, I'm losing my mind. I'm so beat, guys. I am going on vacation this weekend, which is gonna be nice. But I think, honestly, that's about all I have to say right now for this time lapse. So enjoy the rest of it, and I'll catch up with you guys in the second part of this. Alright guys, I do apologize for the shorter commentary during the time-lapse, but I do hope that you enjoyed that time-lapse anyway. I had a lot of fun building it, if you couldn't tell. But here we are at the end, the outro, I guess you can call this part 2 of the episode, the review. I don't know what the best term is for that, but let's just take a look at what we got done in the time-lapse one last time, and I will just discuss a few things with you about what is left to do. So we can take a closer look at the Queen Anne's lace. Excuse me. Allergies are starting to come back now that it's August for some reason. So this is JVC Queen Anne's lace single small, and then there's groups and individuals and the like, so you can intersperse those. I really like the way that these look if they're used properly. I do need to find some other weeds and stuff like that. I'm thinking, I don't know if I have ragweed, unless that's 2 words. Ragweed, milkweed, and one of the other ones that I was thinking of that I see a lot of is, oh man, what's it called? When I worked with the road crew, we used to cut them down all the time on the side of the road. What is it called? It'll come to me probably after I stop recording this episode. But anyway, I need to find some more weeds and the like to populate some of these areas, because I think having some more of a variety is going to add to the scenes. So I'll have to shop around a little bit for some assets. Yeah, I mean, the thing with this whole build is it's not meant to be built off of anything real in the real world. Let's get rid of these menus so we can actually look at what we did here. So this is just my interpretation. This is interpretative art. So it's not exact. It might not be exactly how one of these facilities would work. But, you know, it gets the point across. You're going to be operating your trains over here. Who really cares what's happening over here? It's kind of like background elements that help tie everything together. It's the set. It's the stage. That's the way that I look at it. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but if it tricks your brain and tricks your eye into thinking it is what it is, then the job has been completed. So a couple of other things to mention. I kept the second track here. Let's see if I have any stock cars. I don't think I do. I kept the second track kind of as a storage track, I guess you could call it. Cattle car. No. Okay, so maybe that's something that I need to download. I thought maybe I could plop a couple of those down and we could take a look, but that's okay. We can just imagine it for now. I should have done a little bit more work leading into this episode, but honestly, guys, this week my time is pretty cramped, and I really wanted to get this episode out to you guys this week rather than next week. I am going out of town this weekend, going up to the Adirondacks for a long weekend, hoping to catch a glimpse of the eclipse. It's only going to be a partial eclipse up this way, but I am a photographer and I would like to get a couple of photographs of it. So hoping to get out of town for a little bit, take a break, and relax a bit, because I am a bit fried on the brain, doing my job, plus doing this, plus doing my own business. So it's a lot of creative stuff that's really frying me. So I'm looking forward to a few days off. But that means that there probably won't be a video next week, but I will supplement that with a live stream either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So make sure you got your alerts on for YouTube and just stay tuned, because I probably will do a live stream. And one of the things I'll be working on is actually wrapping up this area a little bit. You'll notice that in the video I didn't fully complete the background over here. I didn't put in all the trees over here. This is the kind of stuff that I think works best for live streams, where I can kind of just talk to you guys and do some of this more like monotonous kind of stuff that really isn't going to make for a good video necessarily, but it makes good live stream material. So we'll do some of that, kind of tie up the loose ends here and try to complete this whole area, and then we can move on to something else. I'm not sure what the next build is going to be, but I will tell you guys, I do have a surprise video coming up sometime soon. It's still in the pre-planning stages, but I have a very ambitious video coming your way in the very nearish future. Oh yeah, one thing that I know you guys are going to yell at me about is this, and I noticed it during the time-lapse when I was doing my voiceover, so I'm going to fix it now. But I do have a very ambitious video coming your way soonish. I'm really excited to be working on what it is without disclosing exactly what I'm going to be building. But I think you guys are really going to like it. And that'll be a little bit of a break from the P&B. But the next episode of the P&B we'll be doing something else. I'm getting kind of close to wrapping up phase 1. So with that, once I get phase 1 done, then I can release it and we can move on to doing builds that are part of phase 2. And I am really, really looking forward to moving on to phase 2 because that's going to be a lot of really fun stuff. There's none of this kind of, I shouldn't say none, but there's less of this half-completed scenery kind of thing. It's more blank track and grid sort of material. So we'll be able to almost start from scratch. There will be a little bit more track laying sort of stuff. So I'm looking forward to diving into that. Let me know what you guys think about this build and the last one. The feedback was really good on episode 11. I had a lot of fun and a lot of fun with this one. So guys, let me know what you think. Leave a comment, leave a like, leave a subscription, all that fun stuff. Guys, enjoy the rest of your summer break and I will catch up with you in episode 13. Take care.